Hello guys, welcome to a new video on Tower of God New World, and in this video I'm going to cover some team composition basics. I'm going to start talking about some starting team comps you could use for the different elements if you just started recently, so you have access to the welcome banner and the non-stop SSR plus banner. I'm going to focus on the units you might be picking there, and yeah, that's more or less the idea. After that, I'm going to move to some more general tips, what I start to look for when I decide how to structure a team. And as the last point, I will talk about positioning a little bit. Nothing too in depth, but a little bit of positioning too. So for the first point, I will just start with the yellow team. That's going to be the first team that most people will start with Hwaion, the yellow mage one, as the main DPS. The two supports that are the core of this team are Bam and Evan. No questions asked, and it's not like we really have any other option other than Shibisu and Gosang, but whatever. These two guys are going to be super helpful. Bam is going to provide energy to nearby allies, which is in this scenario also including Hiwa. It would not include the unit position in this slot, but that's fine, unless there is some massive repositioning during the fight. And is also going to provide energy to Evan, and Evan is going to make everyone invincible for 6 seconds. Well, not invincible, immortal, but yeah, that's pretty much the same, kind of. So these three are the core of the yellow team early on and for a long time. Afterwards, what you can do, if you have enough resources and ignition weapons that you can give to this guy to make him be a solo tank, great, but I doubt you will have at the beginning, so it might feel a bit squishy, so it's not going to be the primary tank. If we want to stay in the yellow element, the main pick would be Vespa, just because she has 2 seconds of invincibility in the passive, and that's about it. With these 2 seconds, could be enough to buy time for Evan to cast a special move, and Hiwa as well, so that they are going to make the whole team invincible, including this guy, and Hiwa might wipe the enemy team out, hopefully. This gets worse and worse as deficit increases, I would say. So keep that in mind. This is going to be the most basic comp. Obviously, as soon as you can get this guy online with a Sela set with resistances so that he can stay alive, awesome. You won't need Vespa anymore, and you can maybe plug in someone else like a Shibisu or a Compress Rack or an Eden. Those are all viable options. But now let's just say you cannot tank with HATs, you have to rely on someone else, and you're okay with using units that are not yellow. Your best picks are always going to be Zahard or Datamashini. So these two units are your best picks. Datamashini has a 10-second invincibility that can be increased based on the amount of skills she casts. And I would say is super solid, and she's not going to move in weird ways like Zahard does. Zahard has 6 seconds of invisibility, but as soon as he gets access to the tier 3 special move, whenever he casts it, is going to go out of the fight, and the enemy team is going to crash into your team if you don't have a secondary tank. So that's pretty trash from my point of view, but it's still pretty good because 6 seconds are guaranteed. Whatever happens after, it's up to you to kind of fix it. So yeah, of the two, I prefer Datamashini, but definitely Zahard is still a really good option. And here we'll just re-add Vespa so that we can move on to the next colors. The second one, I'm going to talk about purple, even though most people will probably skip Oakin. And yeah, let's just start with Oakin carry. Is going to be super strong. I would rather go with him than Vivi early, I would say, because Vivi, I feel like she needs more investment in terms of actual systems and gear, ignition weapon, etc. This guy, you can just give him a Sela with resistances that you would probably have already for your tank hats. Because again, remember, create presets and move them between teams. Don't create a ignition weapon set per unit. So, but again, this guy will work with the Sela and resistances that you will most likely already have. So that's extremely cheap from that point of view. And that's really good. Now, for the supports, we really have 3 options mainly. The first one, that would be Nare, would only come into play if you ever like Revolution 4 or 5. Before then, not really that important. The best option that will always be in every team is Yura. Her like revive is extremely beneficial, and all the buffs to attack and with the revolution in the future also attack speed are really super helpful. She's also going to like stop the energy regen of the enemy and steal some energy and stuff. Pretty good. Now, the second support, you can pick between Gustang to provide heals that are kind of lacking otherwise, or Kunagero for additional buffs, defense shred, and crowd control, enemy removal, stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. If you're like you have to pull for a lot of units early, you might not want to pull for this guy. So if you have a single copy of Gustang and you decide to invest a bit on it, that's totally fine. And you can keep this setup. But since that's not really that granted, I will just add Kunagero in the mix. Now for the frontline unit, you have three options, one of which is going to be automatically discarded, and that is Ghost. This guy is going to boost mostly magic damage dealers, which we have none in this team, so that's a no. And the two options are Karaka or Varagarv. Now, early Karaka is easier to build. It doesn't require any dupes, just plus 30 exclusive equipment and a Miongo set random that you can just give him, and that's going to be enough. The other guy, on the other hand, kind of needs more dupes, and he needs the exclusive equipment as well. Probably plus 20 is enough in his case, but he also needs a good set for him to survive, because he doesn't have access to the plus 30% resistances that this guy has from the exclusive equipment. So it's going to be a bit squishier early, but doesn't matter that much, I would say. Still, if you have a single copy of Karaka, I would rather invest in Karaka early than start building Varagarv. Now for the last spot, we have three options as well. The first one being the least, like the cheapest one, and that is Endorsey. No dupes, no report, no nothing, just 0 dupes. Endorsey with no gear, anything. She will just act as a distraction. She will jump to the lowest lowest defense enemy in the backline. Will draw aggro from some of the enemies that have yet to start moving, and they will all be together there in their backline. Your team will have more time to generate energy, and Joaquin, when he casts the special move, will hit more enemies. That's the whole reason for Endorsey. Not much else to say. The second option would be Vivi as a sub DPS. If you do have Vivi like 3 blue, 3 red, more is not needed. But if you do have that, you can use her. I don't like her as a main DPS, as I said before, because of investment, but as a sub DPS, she will work fine. And also give you access to the HP recovery block that Varagarv has and Karaka doesn't. So that's also a good win in my book. The other option would be Kiseiya. She's going to target the lowest HP enemy out of all, so it will depend on which one of those is the lowest HP enemy, and is going to deal quite a lot of damage to them. If you have Orianna, it's almost a guaranteed kill. If she's Rainbow 5, she could also cast the special move immediately after and kill a second one. That's the whole thing for Kiseiya. I will just leave her here as the option, but I'm not going to talk about her more than this. The third team is going to be a red team, because the third welcome banner is going to be Evankhell, and she's a really great DPS unit, but she needs Rainbow 5. But again, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to talk about the composition of the team. The first support you can assign to her is Xiaxia. She's going to provide an attack buff and some heals and energy for Evankhell, which is going to be pretty beneficial. Now, the rest of the units, I would say I'm first going to talk about the frontline. In the frontline, we really don't have options. We have either Awakened Rock that requires little investment, or Red Mask Warrior that require a lot more investment. You again need to get to like 100% resistances or a lot of evasion. Evasion is also always an option. But yeah, I'd rather probably rely on Awakened Rock early on. Now for the remaining two units, we have like a few options as well. I would say we can put a random yellowy just for the passive, so even for her, no investment, no nothing, and she's going to provide attack speed and crit rate for your highest attack unit, which is going to be Evankhell. It's only for the first 15 seconds. For like 12 more, you would need a Rainbow 5 and get to Revolution 5, but that's not really recommended in my point of view. So she could be an option. And the other one at this point would be either Warion or Romay. I'd go with Warion to be fair. So this could be an okay-ish starting team, but at a certain point you will want to remove Yellowy in favor of Jin Sung Ha, because this guy is going to target the iced attack enemy. When that enemy is dead, and he probably will, because you will be running Rayana on Jin Sung, and hopefully you can get also him to like 3 red. That would be pretty dope. When the highest attack enemy is dead, Warion is going to provide energy to the whole team, and that will mean like she is going to cast the special move immediately instead of waiting. You can run her like 100% on DPS, and she's going to wipe the whole enemy team. Pretty cool, if you ask me. So this is going to be the composition you kind of want to aim towards, from my point of view. Now, another team would be the one where Ren is the carry, because he's the unit that I kind of recommended for the non-stop SSR plus banner. And he's going to be the carry. The support units for him are going to be regular Leroro, super useful for the magic peers, and also the basic attack coefficient, because Ren does quite a bit of auto attacking. It's not most of his damage, so that part is kind of negligible, but the magic pierce is extremely useful. Then we have as an option the Hwaion, super strong, and he's going to keep the whole team alive, also providing some attack buffs here and there, decreasing the energy of the enemies, and yeah, just in general providing some ways for your units to revive. She's also going to remove the buffs from the enemies, which is also another super important thing. So really good unit. Now, for the last two spots, we do need a frontline, though this guy kind of acts as one as soon as you have ignition weapons on him. And the options here are Endorsi, though she has the same issue as Red Mask Warion and Hats, she does need investment to survive, so not really the most recommended as a solo tank early on, and you might want to run with her at the hard. This could be a good initial composition. As soon as she can tank on her own, you can just remove the hard, and at this point the options you have are not too many, but there are some. One of them is regular Yuri, just to have that initial assassination, and she also works pretty well with Hiwa. Not too much if Hiwa is 0 dupes, but it's fine. Or the other option would be someone like Child Endorsi. She's also pretty good. You just need to give her some resistances to survive, or not, if you want to proc the passive. And what she can provide is just like energy block and stuff like that. So this could also be a pretty solid team, but I would probably keep this one or just stay with the hard a bit longer. And it's going to be pretty good. Now for the last team, we have the blue team, and in here I recommend getting a Kaiser. Starting from 3 green will already be fine, but obviously the more copies you have on her, the better. Then for the support units, it's not like we have many choices, to be honest. One of them is Blanc, she's super strong, so she's going to stay here. The second option could be Leroro to boost the attack and then decrease defense of the enemies and other things, pretty good. And those are the two supports we have in this element, to be fair, so not many surprises here. Now for the frontline unit, we do have like 3/4 options. The first one is Datamashini, the cheapest one, just put her in the team, she's going to survive, pretty good. Second one is going to be Kurdan. This guy, with Sela now, probably starting from like 1 blue, he can just reach 100% resistance, is no problem. You just need the plus 20, the Sela set, and some resistances, like here and there, and he will be 100% resistances, which is pretty dope, and he's going to tank more than Datamashini early on, with just this little of an investment. Third option would be this guy, but this guy, I don't know, he removes buffs with a plus 30 exclusive equipment. His tank by default is nothing crazy. He's only providing shields, and I don't know, the damage is negligible. I don't really recommend this guy anymore, guy. Like, I don't know, whatever. I would say either Data Machine or Kurdan. Let's just leave Data Machine for now. Should just at 0 dupe units, perfectly fine. The fourth option that I would still put in the team regardless is Novik. This guy is going to boost the basic attack coefficient by 200% when they're hitting enemies inside this circle. So this is going to boost the damage of Kaiser quite a bit. And he's also going to give with Revolution 5 attack speed to the whole team, which is also pretty beneficial from my point of view. An option you could run instead of Leroro is Blarode, so that you can kill an enemy in the backline. Pretty good as well, but not that necessary. So I'd rather run probably Leroro. And these were the 5 teams, guys. Now we'll just mention something quickly about what to look for when you are trying to create a team from scratch. So not one of these 5 that I just mentioned. And we can pick one DPS unit that I kind of ignored here. No, I don't really like this too much. We could pick a Viol. Let me just first remove all the others, because this way we have more units available. Let's pick a Craptor. Okay. Let's give this guy a shot. So, obviously the first thing you want to know is which kind of damage this unit deals. And you can just click on the unit and you will see the portrait. There is the symbol there now. And this guy deals physical damage. Good. Now, the next information we need is what does his kit have as a buff. So, does he get additional attack? Does he get additional pierce? Does he get additional basic attack coefficient? Does he shreds resistances? Stuff like that. And then you need to kind of keep track of these buffs that he provides to himself and try to integrate more things in the supports to kind of balance it out. Because let's say your unit gets like from his kit 400% basic attack coefficient. So your basic attack coefficient would go from 100% to 500%. Then if you add a support that gives an additional 200, that will go from 500 to 700. That would be, let's say your basic attack is 2. That would mean the first attack would deal 10 damage. The second attack would deal like 14. Okay, this is a 40% increase in damage. If you instead have like someone else that give you 100% attack, your basic attack is going to, like your base attack is going to go from 2 to 4. And afterwards, you're going to apply your 400% that you have in the kit, which is like 500 because we also take into account the 100% base that I was mentioning before. So you have 500% of your attack as damage, and that is 20, which is way more than adding that 200% basic attack increase. Obviously, the contrary would be the same if the unit has an attack buff in the kit and then you add more attack buffs, you have diminishing returns. That's pretty much obvious. So we want to see what this guy gets so that we try to give more like other ways to boost his damage. Okay. So if we look at the passive, it says his basic attacks pierce through targets, which already says that his basic attacks are going to be pretty important for him. Now he's not going to have increases in swiftness. He's going to have increases in attack instead, 2% for every point of swiftness. This means he has an attack buff. And adding swiftness to him will like work on this attack buff. Pretty good. Now the other skill is an attack increase, okay, and a crit rate increase. Both of them are not that high, 24% is nothing, so it's okay. It's an okay buff, but again, attack and crit rate. This one is increase in resistances, fine, but we're not really taking that into account at the moment. And then we have the increase in basic attack coefficient by 160%. So it does get a basic attack coefficient increase as well. Pretty good. Now the special move is just damage, it doesn't get anything. If we look at the passive, again, attack coefficient increase, pretty good, 20%, and then he gets additional attack per swiftness. So what we really want to build on this guy, since we saw his basic attacks are important, and we know that swiftness is not going to have an impact on him other than giving more attack, we do want to go for additional like attack speed and crit damage and pierce, because he doesn't have any kind of pierce in his kit. So all of that is going to be extremely beneficial to him. You don't really want to overstack on attack buffs. So what we're going to do here is first add a source of pierce, and the only one we have at the moment in the game is this unit here. So we're going to add Red Mask Warrior. I'm going to assume you don't need like this guy here. I'm going to assume your Red Mask Warrior is geared properly so that she can tank. So we have her as the main tank and also, crowd controller, whatever, but she's also going to provide pierce to everyone. At this point, we do have a unit that can come in handy and is the only unit that decreases physical resistance in the red team. That unit is Jin Sung. So this guy is going to, with the special move, decrease the resistance of enemies hit by 60%, the physical resistance. And is also going to benefit from the increase in pierce from Red Mask Warrior. So these three units together are really, really solid. Now we still don't have a support, but now that we have a Jin Sung, for the same reason we were talking about before, we are also going to add a Warrior, and Warrior is going to be super helpful also for him to get that remaining crit rate and a bit of increase in attack, but nothing really major. Now for the last unit, what we're lacking now, we have pierce, we have a resistance decrease, and we have some more crit rate. What we're still lacking is attack speed, and I would say the unit that will fit in the best is going to be Yellowy. Obviously, Yellowy is only going to proc the buff from the passive for like the first 15 seconds. With a Revolution 5, that would be fixed actually. But yeah, that attack speed increase already is quite good. If we wanted to mix up the colors, we could go for Novik 2. It's going to provide that basic attack coefficient, which we already have, but is not too high, is only 160%. So the increase in damage is still substantial. And with the Revolution 5, this guy can also provide attack speed for everyone, which is also extremely beneficial. So yeah, this is more or less the idea. But let's stick with the mono red team so we can, misclick, we can stick with the Yellowy. And this is more or less the idea, guys. So you look at what your unit gets, and then you try to complement it with supports around that. Now, it's also important not to build only based on your carry, but to also build based on the enemy compositions. So obviously, if I put a Jin Sung and Warrior combo, and in the enemy team there is a unit that is invincible as the highest attack target, that's going to be pretty bad. So you also want to look at those kind of things. You have to look at the enemy composition and try to readjust it accordingly. But I would say if you just start by looking at your team and trying to put something down, at least you have a base. And then you can just react based on the enemy team. So now that we are talking about enemy team, I'm also going to briefly talk about like positioning as well. So for positioning, there are certain units that will like move towards the enemy in the middle. Like for example, if we do put Zahard here, is going to go like straight, and Data Machine, instead of going here to my spot here where Zahard is located at the moment, she's still going to move to the center where Zahard will be. So the unit positioned here is pretty safe, is not going to receive attacks. And to check that, we can just add, I don't know, a random, well, let me put Data Machine instead. It's going to be the same as Zahard. And we can add in there like a support unit. Let me check if she has, no, she doesn't have resistances. So she's going to die super soon if she's hit. But just to check that that unit is not going to go to blank, we are going to try this. Now, Data Machine in the enemy team focuses on the highest attack unit, so you normally don't really want to go with your carry in the highest attack slot. But I'm going to do that anyway because my Kaiser has the Revolution attack node leveled up, so even if I were to put her in a lower link slot, she would still be the highest attack unit, so whatever, I might as well go in here with the highest attack slot. Now we have the chicken that is going to focus the enemy that's going to move here. So it's not going to focus the enemy here unless it's also an enemy that's going to move forward. And that's good. So we could also place like Kaiser there. So she's going to start focusing on the chicken first. Hopefully, she's also probably going to focus on Novik, but that's fine. Then we're going to add to the mix. Let me check. Like this guy. Does she have something good? Kind of. Not really. Is probably going to die, but it's fine. I'm going to add him as well, so that is going to provide additional damage for my Kaiser. And in the last spot, I would say we can just go with this guy as well. It doesn't have anything, so we can also check how easy it is to survive there in the backline. And this is just to show you guys you don't necessarily need to put your DPS in the backline for them to be safe. You might have enemies that target backline units. You might have situations like this where you can create a safe bubble in the front line. Like these units here are going to be relatively safe because no unit will be in this range. They will all be focused more towards here, the center. So here is relatively safe. This one is not necessarily the case, depends on the chicken. If he decides to attack my units or not, he should still be focusing on my Data Machine. So we can just give it a try. I will put random units in the other team so that you can let me start. Okay, this one was already fine, and this one whatever. So let's just check. I will slow it down if it wasn't slowed down already, and we can see exactly how the enemies are moving. Okay, seems to be slowed down already. So you can see that the chicken attacked Data Machine. He did not attack Kaiser. And the enemy Data Machine moved towards my Data Machine. Novik was in the backline, so he was not targeted at first by anyone, and he could simply join this invincible Data Machine. She took the damage from 5 units, but it doesn't matter because she's invincible. So that's kind of the idea behind this positioning. As I mentioned at the beginning, my highest attack unit is Kaiser, so we had Data Machine focus on her. I do run Kaiser on like resistance builds, so she didn't take a lot of damage. But if Data Machine were to apply the magic resistance decrease on her, she'd be dead. So it all depends on that. No debuff on my unit, so that should be pretty okay. My Leroro died while the enemy team was going after my Kaiser. That's still okay as well. My frontline is still holding up. Machine is still invincible. Novik didn't take any damage yet, and Kaiser neither. Blanc was not even focused in the least, so that was actually the safest position, the top left one. Now she took an attack, but it's fine. And now she died. I think the whole team died. Okay, yeah, it's only Kaiser. Will she be able to do it? If the enemy Machine loses the invincibility, maybe. No, okay. She ended up not winning this fight, but that's fine. I was just showcasing some positioning, and the rest of the units didn't really have a lot of sets. So this is kind of the idea. You have to understand how the enemies are going to move, and then you position your units accordingly. It's not like you always need to position your DPS in the back between 2 frontline units. No, that's not the case. And it's not like you always need to have specific supports in the same place, blah blah blah. No, you can mix and match. You might even want to put Kaiser there in the middle for some reason. We could even try this kind of composition. It would be pretty stupid, but it could work. So she's going to move forward. This guy is going to move forward. This guy is going to go to one of the two based on which one is closer. It shouldn't be quick enough to go to my Kaiser, but we can just give it a shot and check. And then I don't want to take this video to be like too long. It was just to let you guys think of how the fight is deploying, working, and then you can react accordingly. So as you could see, the only thing that changed is that now Eden managed to focus on my Kaiser. So Eden threw like a couple of basic attacks on my Kaiser. That's definitely not something you want to see. Like the enemy Datamashini managed to reach my backline and destroy both of my supports. That's also something you don't want to see, but that's fine. My Novik got focused too hard because he didn't start in the back and he died immediately. That's also something you don't want to see. So all in all, this fight was way worse than the previous attempt. As you could also see, like this was a total, like they really destroyed me. And this is to show how important positioning unit accordingly to how the enemies will move is super important. And yeah, that's pretty much the idea, I would say. Not going to try and clear it because, I mean, if I were to give sets to the units, that would be fine already. But yeah, that's pretty much the idea, guys. Let me know if you have any questions or if I forgot to, I don't know, say something, let me know. This was just a basic guide on how to build your teams and what you should think about when positioning them. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please drop a like and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.